Hello, it's me, Rorro Pirrorro. It's been a while. Sorry it took so long. But judging by the length of this video, you would understand why. As promised, here we are. I've tried my best to answer most of the questions. I also want to apologize in advance if some of the questions sound very similar to others. I tried my best to group together the similar questions to be able to answer all of them back to back. But because I have so many questions, it's kind of inevitable that I might have forgotten or missed out some of them. I hope you guys stick around because I had a lot of fun making this video. So either way, let's get right into it. It's gonna be a long one. How long did it take you to make your first animation in the program? First thing I ever done in SFM was something like a long time ago. There wasn't really much animation involved to it. It was mainly simulating your average TF2 battle, like kill binds in the console, while recording it actually in SFM. So the way how it works is in SFM you can actually press F11 and it allows you to play TF2 within SFM, which is actually really cool. Of course it's an older version of TF2, but still pretty cool honestly, all things considered. Who do you think are the most underrated animators on the platform right now? Assuming you mean SFM animators, I might be biased for mentioning these names since most of them are close friends of mine, but honestly I would say they deserve a shout out.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
It was perfect. 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 Everything, down to the last minute details.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
What took you the longest to make a project? If we talk about the longest time I've ever worked on an SFM project, it must probably be Till the Road Ends. That project has been already going on for almost 5 years, I would say. Like, it's kind of crazy to even think about it, like 5 years. Started way back in 2015, but that one is never completed. So if you have to talk about a project that is completed or ongoing still, I would probably say Assault 2 for it, because there's no other project that's actually as old as this project, other than what I said before. But this is a project that started actually, I would say, in 2020. Some scenes even dating way back in 2018, but I wouldn't say it really counts. I would say the official date is probably 2020. Have you ever thought about variety content? Yes, I always wanted to branch out, making different kinds of videos, not just animation. As much as I love animation, it takes forever for me to make a video, even a short one, and being able to upload other types of videos will kind of help my channel in the long run. I feel like I am knowledgeable enough in TF2 and SFM where I could make videos on certain topics. I could also practice my editing skills with making these videos, so I think that would be pretty cool. Although I'm not sure yet if I could actually do this, because you know how awkward I am when I'm recording myself, because obviously when making a video I'll have to use my voice, so that's something I'm gonna have to practice on. Probably also get a better mic, although obviously having a good mic doesn't mean jack shit when you suck at recording, but we'll see what happens from here. Any tips for somebody with around 550 hours on the program? If you already have over 500 hours, I would say good luck, you're in for the long run. It depends on what you really want to do, because some people use SFM only for artworks, or some people sell their souls to the devil and animate. I don't really have much to add to it, but what I can say is just always be prepared for SFM's bullshit, because SFM is ruthless sometimes when it comes to certain problems you have to deal with. SFM is a great software, but it has its flaws, and you as a creator have to always be alert when working with SFM, especially when you reach a stage where you overcomplicate your SFM files with a lot of workshop content or other sources. It's kind of crazy just how huge your files can get. How do you stay motivated to keep animating? I think what motivates me right now is just being able to see the end results of my projects. I am someone who actually likes to watch my old videos time and time again, because it's just kind of fun, honestly. In the end of the day, you have to make something that you can enjoy. If you try to follow trends or specific things to animate, but it's not something that actually interests you, don't do it. It's really important that all you have to do is just enjoy the process. Also, I mean, making 8 seconds of animation in 4 days is honestly not bad. It really depends on how complex the animation is, because sometimes animation can take a really long time depending on how crazy the movement is. Like if it's like a fight scene between two characters, that's something that would easily take weeks when animating something, so don't feel ashamed. If you need a whole week just for 5 seconds of animation, use that whole week. Do not let that bring you down. What class do you main in TF2? I wouldn't say I really main a class, but I guess the closest thing I have to a main is probably Sniper and Scout, and probably Soldier here and there. What started you to march in the road of YouTube and the evil Source Spaghetti? I discovered TF2 back in 2014, and basically I saw all the Meet the Team animations and I always wondered how they were made. Because prior to that I always wanted to do animation. I even have a history in trying to make Minecraft animation, but that's a story for another day I would assume. And sadly I don't have anything to show for. But ever since I saw videos pop up with the SFM distinction in the titles, I always wondered like, what's SFM? So I looked it up, and SFM stood for Source Filmmaker, and well, the rest was history. What is the most important thing that someone has ever taught you? I'm not talking about animations. It would probably be, sometimes in life you cannot always have nice things. Sometimes you will find yourself working your damn hardest on something and it would still not be enough, whether it's a job interview, school assignment, exam, or even just an SFM animation for that matter. As long as you can say you put in the work, you should never bring yourself down. You should be proud, because as long as you know you worked hard on it, there's no shame in defeat. There's no shame in not succeeding, because in the end, you will learn from that experience. Don't get me wrong, you have to try to succeed by any means necessary, but if that wasn't enough, at least you can say you tried. My man HoovyTube, how you doing? Jesus Christ, these are some long-ass questions. Oh well, let's do this. Do you think that internalized pain or some sort of deep discomfort is necessarily linked to authentic artistic expression? I guess in a way, yeah. It seems very common for artists to struggle in life, a bit more than average people. I think it's because generally artists are in a field that doesn't really bring much profit in the first place, because it's really dependent on luck. Some artists just get a good job and live happy lives, but I would say almost 95% of artists don't really have good lives. While they could have gotten more stable and more secure job, they choose art because their art doesn't make them much money and secure financial stability. It messes with people a lot, especially because art in general is a lot more personal and it's just different in a sense. Art truly is an authentic expression, and if someone struggles more than others, it really shows through their art. One of my all-time favorite painters has to be Vincent van Gogh, because of that exact same reason. The man had a rough life, and ironically because of that, after his death he became one of the most important and most popular artists of all time in his time period, which is kind of crazy to think about. What shot that you created are you the most proud of? What writer and director influenced your craft the most? I would say that Michael Mann's Heat has probably had the most influence ever on anything I've ever made, in terms of action scenes, especially shootouts and overall tension throughout the scene. For Assault on 2-4, that's actually one of the big inspirations I got. Something else I really got a lot of inspiration from are John Woo movies such as Hardboiled and A Better Tomorrow. And obviously the John Wick movies I think have been great sources of inspiration for action in general. If you had a $10,000 budget to create whatever SFM video you please, what would it be about? That's quite a budget to make anything. That would really be tough on how I would use that budget. First of all, it depends on the context of what video will be. Since I have a higher budget, I'll likely spend a decent amount on it on sound design and composing, since that's really an area where I kind of lack in terms of my own videos, because I usually always use royalty-free sounds, or I just use whatever sound effects I can get from video games. So it would be nice to kind of have like a custom soundtrack and custom sound design. Also, obviously I'm going to want to pay more voice actors as well if I ever need some for this project. Honestly, I don't really know what exactly I would do, since I don't really have a project in mind that would need a budget of this size, but I would definitely try to make something that's more focused on TF2 as a whole. I think that would make the most sense in my opinion. I will try not to make something entirely new with too many custom characters, because that would just, I don't know, that would be just too much, honestly. I feel like just a focus on a genuine, heartfelt TF2 story with comedic, dramatic, and have all the things cinema can offer, I would say. If anything, I always wanted to make a road trip movie with the 9 mercenaries. This is an old idea I had for a while, but this will likely never be made, so feel free to steal. No, I'm just joking. Maybe, who knows, whatever. My idea was that basically it would be about a scout who once receives a letter of his mother, basically just asking how he's doing and such. Pretty lovely indeed. But when he realizes it's close to Mother's Day and he hasn't seen her in a while. Luckily at that time, they're on a vacation with the mercenaries. Scout, not having the money to pay plane tickets, he persuades Sniper to drive him to his mother's place on the other side of the United States, in Boston. Sniper's quite reluctant at first, but believes that road trip would be pretty cool. But then the other mercenaries hear about this plan and they all want to go along with the trip. Only one problem though, they're gonna need a bigger van. That's kind of where the idea ends, because other than that I don't really have many ideas. Like, it would be just kind of chaos, like just a lot of things happening throughout the animation, and obviously it ends with them arriving at the destination, but other than that I don't really know where to go further than that. We will have to see. Did you reconsider the invalidity of Mary Sue criticism after creating a series with a female protagonist? I just honestly don't really care about Mary Sue criticism. To me, it really just depends on how on the nose it is. Like, in my case, I honestly genuinely believe the female scout in my animation isn't a Mary Sue at all. Sure, she's very capable, but so are all the male characters in the animation. I didn't make them incompetent to make her look better. In fact, they're just as, if not more capable than her, and they just work together as a team, instead of making such a huge deal out of the scout being a woman. All I can say is, if anyone truly believes the female scout is a Mary Sue in his animation, would they have said the same if the scout were a man? What did you learn over the last 3 years? Work smarter, not harder. Learn to accept that sometimes some things are never meant to be. Instead of being sad that something can happen, like let's say a project, be happy that you could experience it, the process, and learn from it instead. Don't let it bring you down either, because in the end of the day, it's really just a project. It's okay to be attached to it, just don't let it take influence over you, or else you might neglect your surroundings, your friends, and in the worst case even your mental and physical health. Just remember that. What are the scariest horror stories you had to deal with from SFM? SFM is terrifying. Here's a little story. SFM has a problem with its locking system when it comes to cosmetic items. It's hard to explain, but whenever you apply a cosmetic item onto a character, all the controls get locked onto the corresponding controls such as the pelvis, the spine, etc. Character models are some of the heaviest models you can spawn in SFM, and if you have a cosmetic item locked to it, it adds quite a lot to the memory of SFM. With that said, sometimes you can find custom cosmetics in the Steam workshop, but that's a double-edged sword, because sometimes, for unspecified reasons, the original uploader would straight up remove the models from the workshop without any warning. And this happened on several occasions. SFM will automatically delete it as well, which will create an error in its place. The problem is, whenever cosmetic is locked onto a character, SFM cannot process it properly, and because of the locks, SFM will crash. I've had many DMX files corrupt because of this issue, because I literally cannot open the file without SFM just straight up crashing. This is the main reason why, from that point on, I always put an empty shot in the beginning of every SFM DMX file, because at least then SFM won't crash upon startup. Then that way I can actually delete the errors before anything else happens. In case this ever happened to you, here's a way to fix the broken file. You can import a DMX file into another DMX file via the element viewer. You go to the MISC bin, right mouse click, import element, search the broken file and import it. This is the part where you need to be very careful. You take the active clip and drag it over the session. It's not mandatory, but it makes things just a little bit less tedious. Delete everything else. Now access your active clip. Go to subtrack group, tracks. After that you drag the shot you need into the timeline. Here is where you will undo all the progress if you're not careful enough. Do not let the playhead touch the shot, because this is why it actually crashes, because then it tries to process the shot, but because there's faulty models it will crash. You will select the shot blindly and then delete all the models that might cause a crash, and only then you can view the shot. What is the lore of Gabby? Okay, I never thought I would ever have to explain this, but why not? So, the history of Gabby Alvarez started back in 2015. Gabby is a character I created for my SFM series called Till the Road Ends. She was the main character of the series. Her main appearance was pretty recognizable by always having the hairstyle of Tracer from Overwatch, together with glasses. This character has pretty much existed since the beginning of my YouTube channel. You could essentially say she is the channel's icon. There's also a short period of time that the character was used as N0ice by a friend of mine, but we don't talk about that. Ever since, this character just kept reoccurring in newer videos. Obviously throughout the years I also updated her look a little bit, such as giving her green eyes and clothes that would actually make sense in a cold setting. And ever since, she alongside the Sniper and Spy have been pretty much the main characters on my YouTube channel. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Do you ever look at some bad Gmod or SFM video and think to yourself, I could do this better? Honestly, not really. I never really liked the idea of downplaying someone else's work. There are several reasons why something is considered bad. Either it's an experience factor, or simply situational. Sure, I've had my criticisms before with other SFM videos. That's normal. You're not always going to like everything you watch. But I never thought to myself I could do better, because every video is unique in their own way. It's unique to the person who made it and to the ones who watch it. I believe everyone is good in their own way. Some just express it differently. What happened to Hazen? We just kind of moved on. We had our own interests. I stayed within the SFM and TF2 community, while Hazen pretty much moved on to other things in life. That's just how life is sometimes. We still talk every now and then, but not as much as we used to. What has kept you motivated when doing your animations, and what's the inspiration for Red Alert? This might sound weird to say, but what kept me motivated on working on Assault on 2-4 was mainly just knowing that I would finish it one day, because in my head it seemed like a project I could actually finish, and it motivated me to go for the finish. And because of that, I always thought that on paper it would actually have a chance to blow up as well. I didn't expect it to do really well, like I'm not trying trying to compete with the Winglet or Sino. I'm just trying to be me, really. I know that it actually did blow up eventually, but despite not being super viral, for SFM TF2 standards, I would say it's pretty good, considering also how dead my channel was at the time, so not bad. As for Red Alert, in case you forgot, Red Alert or Red Alarm, doesn't really matter how you call it, is the name of the song that plays in the intro of Assault on 2 My friend Fortress Films composed this track. The intro song is mainly inspired by the soundtrack of the game Katana Zero. He also mentions how he used the soundtrack of Tenet as an inspiration, mainly for the pulsing synth bass that plays throughout the entire song. He also added some guitars as well to really make this song really come to life and kind of be its own thing without actually being a rip-off of an existing song. So that's pretty cool. Because you've seen the community's reaction on Assault on 2 have you already gotten other ideas for future projects? Like inspired from other games aside TF2? To be honest, for now, not really. I do have video ideas, of course, but nothing too fleshed out to become a legit project. Because right now I'm just way more focused on Assault on 2 Part 2. Ever thought to make a tutorial on how to animate? I feel like I'm not really qualified enough as a speaker to make a tutorial. When it comes to animation, you don't necessarily have to look up SFM related videos. Animation is pretty universal. There are hundreds, if not thousands of good animation tutorials out there that can help you get better. SFM is just a tool for animation, really. What type of co-writers you might be interested in, or what kind of experience they should have as well. Honestly, I don't really expect any professional level. First of all, I'm not trying to direct a feature film or anything. Secondly, I cannot afford a professional writer in the first place. So in the end of the day, projects like Assault on 2 are just there to be enjoyed by the community. I'm not trying to become a popular filmmaker, I just want to make cool stuff. Why did you originally get into animating? Or who did you originally intend to see your videos? Initially, I started my animation career in Minecraft. I was obsessed with Minecraft parodies, as I mentioned earlier. However, due to me being only 12 years old at the time, I was simply too young to learn 3D software. I had the correct version of Cinema 4D, but I wasn't really that good at it. I was okay, but I couldn't really animate anything with it just yet, so it would take a couple of years later before I get on Steam and eventually play TF2 for the first time. That is where I discovered the animated shorts and eventually stumbled upon SFM. As I would say, the rest is history. I always wanted to just upload my videos out there for people to see. Are you planning to pursue animation professionally, or is it just a hobby? Originally, animation was pretty much a hobby, but in the last few years, I would really love to make a career out of this. So I do tend to pursue animation professionally once I graduate. I still got to improve my portfolio, because SFM animation can be used, but the industry is usually biased towards more industry standard software. It is what it is. What's something you like and don't like about SFM? Maybe compared to others animation software. I don't really have too many issues with Source Filmmaker as a whole. I think the software itself is actually pretty solid. I mainly like SFM's workflow because essentially it allows you to go through a large portion of the animation filmmaking pipeline with a single software. For instance, you can make a storyboard in SFM. You can edit and cut in SFM as well, and you can use that same exact storyboard to make a block out, which then becomes your animation all in a single file. That's pretty useful. However, obviously there are a lot of issues with this software. The most obvious one being is how outdated everything is, and how buggy and how crash prone it is. If one thing SFM really struggles with as well is primarily just the technology behind it, especially in rendering and lighting. It's very basic compared to Maya, Blender or Unreal Engine, because the source engine SFM uses is pretty old, so its lighting system isn't also very advanced and really bare bones. So making good lighting in SFM is going to be a very worthy challenge, I can tell you that. How many OCs do you have and what are their names? This is going to be tough. So the thing about OCs is that I would never really consider any of these characters to be true OCs, since they're just existing characters with a specific outfit. However, I have given them names to kind of distinguish them, and I guess inevitably that would make them OCs in a way. It's not really helped by the fact that they also reoccur in a lot of videos of mine. So let's kind of list the most important characters. These characters were originally from Till the Road Ends, but ever since I started using them in random funny videos to have recognizable characters, that's just kind of how it went. Do you plan on being a voice actor in your own projects? Probably not. I just don't really have the talent for voice acting. I might maybe do some more voiceovers, but I don't think acting is really my thing. That's just asking a little bit too much. What is your favorite weapon in real life, if you have any? These ants. Is Assault on 2-4 technically a sequel to Till the Road Ends or a completely separate series? It's definitely a separate series. The only thing going for it is that it basically has references. If you want to go really far-fetched, you could argue that Assault on 2-4 is like maybe an alternate universe to Till the Road Ends because I use the same characters. Like for instance, the spy, who was basically a villain in Till the Road Ends, is now basically a good guy. Okay, good is maybe questionable, but he's essentially a main character, so you get what I mean. Since you've worked with Hoovie 2, which other SFM animators do you hope to work with? For example, The Winglet, Kostamoinen, Italian Ninja. Honestly, it would be a massive honor for me to work with either of these animators. It doesn't really matter to me too much. I think the biggest honor would be to work with The Winglet. I think it would be really cool. Who would you consider the best SFM animator of all time? This one is hard. If I have to make a top 5 in no particular order, I think the greatest SFM animators of all time are Murray Dis, Jesse Baumgartner, The Winglet, Hypo, and No Names Left. Were there any inspirations for either Till the Road Ends or Assault on 2-4? For Till the Road Ends, it was primarily End of the Line, and for Assault on 2-4, it was various 80s and 90s action movies. Do you use any other animation software apart from SFM? If so, which? If not, do you want to? Yes, I actually do use other software, specifically Autodesk softwares like Maya and 3ds Max, sometimes Blender, and in the past I have used Cinema 4D before. How many hours of gameplay do you have in SFM and TF2? At which class do you have the most kills in TF2, and at which the least? Judging by playtime, I would say the most kills I have is probably with Sniper and the least kills with Heavy. Is there a project that you are really proud of, but didn't get much attention? I would say it's probably for me Friday Night at the Blue Team, Part 2 to be specific, because I really put a lot of effort into the editing and the effects. It's a project that I did kind of on the side, but honestly I just had a lot of fun with it. Sadly the video didn't do really well, but that's just how it goes sometimes. And did you manage to 100% that Geometry Dash level? Yes, I actually did. I mean, I already completed the game a long time ago. I just chose that level in particular because it didn't have any copyright issues with the song, because I needed one for the video. From your experience, how hard and time consuming is it to produce a smooth SFM animation like the ones you make? I hate to say it, but it really depends on what exactly you want to do and how long it is. Animation as a medium has always been kinda taken for granted in the sense of how much work goes into it, especially with 3D animation. So when it comes to the amount of time spent, an animation of 4 seconds long could literally take weeks for professional animators. If the motion is incredibly complex, such as a character doing a backflip or a fight scene. So all I can say is just work on it and see how it goes. There really isn't a clear answer on how long it will take. It just really depends on how efficient you can be. How does it feel you finally got a taste of that YouTube fame? Feels good, honestly, especially having my work and the work of my team pay off. However, this feeling has a double-edged sword to it. Don't get me wrong, I waited years for this moment, so by no means am I saying this is a bad thing, but I wouldn't lie if I said it brought plenty of new issues I never realized until now. For starters, momentum is a really important thing on YouTube. The more you upload, the more views you get in a shorter period of time. I may have a lot of views in recent uploads, but if I'm inactive for the next few months, it's not going to be much different from the time I have still 5,000 subscribers. The other problem is I realized the absolute pressure it puts me through in order to make videos because I want to keep the momentum going. It basically sends me into overdrive to work on videos and upload them as soon as possible. I know you all tell me to take my time, but the reality of the situation is YouTube does not wait for you. As an animator, your shelf life is really short and it's really important to show activity. It's very rare for someone to be inactive for long periods of time and do well. The only people I've ever seen get away with it are people like The Winglet and Crash Mall, but then they have such huge channels that they can just do that. Way more views as well, more than I could ever dream of. If I have to give some advice to people who go through similar things I do right now, just remember not to take everything too seriously. In the end of the day, when you're a small channel, like a small YouTuber, YouTube should not mean everything to you. At 16,000 subscribers, no matter how big that seems, in the grand scheme of things, you literally do not exist. Depending on what type of content you make, you should never see YouTube as a job, until you really reach a massive following, exceeding over the hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Any lower than that, just try to have fun, man. Your fight scenes look really well made, thank you. Where did you take inspiration to make them like this? Most inspiration I take from the 80s and 90s action movies, such as John Woo films, Heat, Die Hard. I also watch a lot of combat sports, such as mixed martial arts and boxing, which is really good reference for fight scenes. Do you feel like you might be going over the top with how brutal it is at times? Honestly, not really. I mostly animate TF2. The game itself is inherently brutal by default, so even sometimes I'm actually holding back with the brutality. I think it really just depends on the context of the scene itself. Without spoiling, I can say Assault on 2-4 Part 2 will have some interesting fight scenes. You uploaded a video some time ago where a femscout hits the heavy bag at the gym. Will you also be doing hand-to-hand combat or just focus on gunfights mostly? Absolutely. I personally find hand-to-hand combat much more fun to block out for animation because of how far you can go within the choreography and timing. What would you say is your favorite part of making animations? For me, it's probably always just learning new things. What do you think is the most important when it comes to writing believable characters? Could you imagine yourself interacting with this character, whether it's a positive or negative interaction? How would a character exist within the boundaries of the real world? How would they deal with a specific real world scenario? And how would their behavior be realistic or therefore believable? It really just kind of depends, honestly. It really depends also just in what kind of world does your character live in. What's a trope or subversion of one you love to see in movies and other media, and why? For me personally, I just really love the one-man army trope. Just one dude going on a rage-fueled rampage, going through the entire enemy base, taking out everything and everyone. I just think it's really badass. Do you think TF2 will ever get a major update? And if not, will this affect your love for the game or make you stop playing? Honestly, I cannot tell, but judging by the current situation with Valve and TF2, sadly I have to say there will likely be no more major updates, aside from the annual Scream Fortress and Smith's updates. Otherwise, it will not deter me from playing TF2. It's a game I spent most of my late teens and early adulthood with. It's a game I've always come back to no matter how long it has been since the last time I played it. I don't think I ever see myself ever quitting the game unless Valve has something to do with it. So I will always love the game, regardless of what happens with it. Have you ever got your videos re-uploaded and stolen without getting any credit? If yes, how did you deal with them? I've had it happen on several occasions. The reality of the situation is there is not really much I can do about it because that's just how YouTube is. That said, most of the times these re-uploads are like Russian translations, which is kind of funny, but also just a lot of people with smaller channels, so I don't really feel threatened by them at all, and I just don't really care. It's just too much effort to try to hunt down all those videos, so I'll just leave it for what it is. After all, I'm still the one who's getting most of the views, so I don't care. What's the SFM video you made that you are the most proud of and the least proud of? I think the answer is kind of obvious. A solo 2 foot is the one I can really say I'm proud of, and the animation I'm least proud of. If you know, you know. Can you share the ways you deal with creativity blocks, being lazy and unmotivated or burnout when doing SFM projects? Honestly, when it comes to dealing with creativity blocks and laziness, a way to fix a significant amount of it is just to basically cut out as many distractions as possible. I learned recently that an easy way to work around it is boredom really motivates you to do something. If you have nothing around you, eventually you will force yourself to work on something because you're doing nothing and you would rather do something. That's kind of how I work around laziness and distractions. As for creative blocks, it's completely fine to just take a break every now and then. It's important to refresh your mind and reset. That will really help you kind of regain your creativity. What is your favorite Yakuza game? Probably Yakuza 0 and Yakuza 5. I'd say if I have to recommend a game, just start at Yakuza 0. That's the beginning of the story, so that would make the most sense. Can you share what are your favorite Gmod/SFM animations that inspire your works? Sure.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
It was perfect. Perfect.
How many languages are you fluent in? Well, pretty much only English and Dutch. I can speak a little French, but I cannot maintain a conversation to save my life. Aside from animation quality, what are your most prioritized criteria that you want to improve in future SFM? I want to primarily improve at lighting and animating lip sync and especially acting. I've gotten decent at action and more realistic motion in animation, but I want to be able to animate comedic timing in animation to kind of have a little bit more of a cartoony style as well, because I feel like right now I'm just way too focused on realism and I really should try to focus on more stylized animation. It's kind of important to be versatile as well. It's pretty good. Which SFM mechanic took you more more time to learn. I would say in my case it would probably be the locking system in SFM. Due to SFM not having like a keyable locking system, it makes animations with objects pretty difficult. Like, let's say you want to animate something or someone holding a specific object, and for instance he grabs it and then throws it away. If you animate in Maya or Blender, you can basically use like a constraint or even a control that the rig has, and you can basically just keyframe it, and whenever you adjust it, it allows the object to either follow a parent, or it's basically disconnected from the parent. The problem is that SFM doesn't have a system like this, which means you have to kind of work around it. What I usually would do is I would use multiple copies of specific objects and basically just resize them whenever like a specific one is needed. Either one that is locked onto someone's hand or one that's completely loose. Or you can also do it the hard way and just use a single object and just spam keyframes everywhere and make sure that the position of the object is aligned with the parent whenever you disconnect it. Do you remember what was your first screenshot or artwork in SFM? And would you share it with us? Absolutely. Let me pull this up really quickly. I don't think I ever posted this online, so we'll see how it looks like. Cringy file name aside, I think I made this poster back in August of 2014. Yeah, it has been quite a long time. It's kind of crazy to look back at this. It's such a throwback. It's a relic of the past. Are you still in university? What are you studying? Actually, to be exact, I'm still in college. I study digital arts. It's basically some kind of a course that focuses on 3D modeling, animation, and visual effects. What is the thing that you miss the most about the old SFM days? I miss the time where we could just have fun. Don't get me wrong, I actually do really enjoy my SFM work today, but back then it just kind of hit different. Because back then I just kind of started out and I never really cared about how good my SFM was. I knew my skill level at the time and I just went for it. The community was also just a lot different back then. Steam groups were much more of a thing and Saxy Awards were still being hosted, so things were just a lot more simpler and a lot more lively. Today's SFM climate is kind of in a weird spot. I wouldn't say it's dead. In fact, there's a lot more people doing SFM more than ever, but at the same time, it doesn't feel alive like it used to be once. We're definitely no longer in the golden age, sadly. Most of the big animators kind of left the community to pursue careers in the industry, and SFM and TF2 just kind of lost their relevancy over the years. It's still there, but it's different. IRL meet with me and Hoktep1. Hopefully in the near future, that would be really cool. Why did you start making SFMs? Because to me it felt like I had a second chance at animating again. Because obviously I wanted to animate Minecraft animation, but that failed, so Source Filmmaker kind of gave me another opportunity to do that. Explosions. Yes. What is your opinion or idea in balancing Sniper? Oh boy, this is going to be a controversial one. Here's a hot take. I don't think Sniper really needs much balancing, but for the sake of making Sniper just a little bit more enjoyable to play against, the only thing I would truly ever change is Sniper's effectiveness at longer ranges. The ability to one-shot everything at any range without ever being spotted is pretty busted, especially because it is head scan. Nerf the damage a little bit and it would help a lot on most payload maps. Or rather, I mean, add some kind of fall off, like a damage fall off, similar to the Ambassador. Of course, not nearly as much, because it's still meant to be a sniper rifle after all. Secondly, nerfing damage on body shots would also make a big difference, because then snipers cannot just charge a body shot and one shot a medic across the map. As someone who has done this on many occasions, I do admit this is a war crime. Another thing is, I don't see quickscoping as big of an issue, because in all fairness, aside from the bots, not many people can consistently quickscope at close ranges. Sure, it's annoying, but at least they are in harm's way. If they miss, they get punished. Simple as that. It's not really a big problem. Unless you are an idiot. How to get good with SFM or something, I don't know. Learn how to animate or something, I don't know. Or just watch all the SFM tutorials on YouTube. They are for free. What got you into YouTube? I've had a long time on YouTube already with many failed attempts on gaming channels, but really it all started back in 2014 when I got into SFM for the first time and I started animating and posting content. I used to upload on an older channel before, but then I moved on to this current one because I made it with a friend basically before I took over all by myself. So how I got into YouTube just kind of came naturally, really. What got you into animation? I was always fond of animated movies ever since I was a child. Pixar, Disney, DreamWorks, even Studio Ghibli at times, even Newgrounds Animations very long time ago. I had my first animation experience when I wanted to make Minecraft animations. I was a huge fan of Minecraft parodies, and I always dreamed of making my own Minecraft parodies. Luckily that never worked out. I was simply too young to try something so difficult at the time. What were you doing before you started your channel? Basically just going to school and play Call of Duty on my PlayStation 3? Did you think Assault on 2 Fort would become so popular? In a way, I weirdly expected it to do well, considering the current SFM meta on YouTube is either to basically just make memes and trends or make really huge animated films. Since Assault on 2 Fort had a bit of that TF2 vibe to it, considering how Assault on 2 Fort really does scream epic TF2 action movie, I think that's what helped gain popularity. Word of mouth is also a really big deal. If you make it something worthwhile, people will eventually share the rounds with friends and more people will end up seeing it. I think also just having a good title and a good thumbnail also really helped as well, so yeah, pretty good. Are you a boy or a girl? This is something I didn't understand till recently, but it kind of makes sense now if you think about it. First of all, to be clear, yes, I am a guy. I just happen to use a female character as avatar because, I mean, why not? There's nothing more to that, really. I think I kind of underestimated how much my channel has grown over the last few months, because otherwise me using a female character as a profile was kind of normalized among the community. However, many new people joined, and obviously most people don't really know the backstory behind this, so I guess it kind of makes sense why people would ask what my gender is. The character I use is actually a reference to a character I pretty much created myself, and I just kind of stuck with it for the last few years. Same goes for the female scout I use in SFM animations. What are some of your favorite shows, movies, animated and live action? As you may already have guessed, I am an anime enjoyer. Some of my favorite shows are Vinland Saga, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Attack on Titan, and Mob Psycho 100. As for movies or shows, I never really watched any TV shows, but I did watch plenty of movies. Some of my favorite movies of all time are Gladiator, Reservoir Dogs, Children of Men, Heat, Good Time, Redline, Fantastic Mr. Fox, No I'm Not a Furry, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Spirited Away, and many, many more. There's way too much for me to list them all, so yeah. What movie will you never stop rewatching? For me, it's probably Reservoir Dogs and Redline. I cannot explain why, they're just really short movies, but also just really rewatchable. How is life treating you? Good. Could be better, could have been worse, so I'm not complaining. Where are you from? From the Philippines, but I currently live in Belgium. Favorite Yakuza character? Goro Majima. How does one cope with existence? Perhaps we only exist to cope. Just try to enjoy life. If you had to pick only one genre to animate, like action, comedy, etc., what would you choose? Probably action. That's a genre I'm most familiar and comfortable with. I just like coming up with a choreography to direct action with, and like create a certain flow within the combat. Action isn't meant to be mindless after all, and it is an art in its own right. I'm still trying to improve at it, but I can safely say it's my favorite genre to animate. What was the most regrettable thing you have ever done on your YouTube channel? Will we see any more of Tilt Rodents, or is it a cancelled project? I hate to say it, but it's pretty much a cancelled project. It became too ambitious and it took too long. But I'm still planning to upload smaller clips to kind of show like what has been done, so at least that's that. But for now I would say it's a cancelled project. I'm sorry. Are you planning to do some SFM TF2 collab? This is always something I've thought about. I always wanted to host an SFM and/or Gmod collab at some point on my YouTube channel, but I never had the channel big enough to have enough people be interested in joining it. I know it isn't necessarily about the amount of entries, but it would have been kind of a lost cause at the time. Perhaps now is a better time to do it actually. Maybe one day I could host one. This is definitely something I've always been interested in doing, especially in the near future, so hopefully by then I would have a creative idea. Motion editor or graph editor? Graph editor gang for life. Where is Nemo?
Right behind you.
Do you consider making animations with non-TF2 characters? I have actually made animations before with other characters. I can show you a sneak peek of this. This is a thing I made with Tekken characters because I just really like Tekken. I am not sure if I will ever finish it. How long did it take for you to finish the Assault on 2 Fort SFM movie with your team? More than 2 years I would say probably. It depends on like which scenes we're talking about, because some scenes actually are even older than that, dating back to 2018 like I said earlier. Assault on 2 Fort itself started in 2020. How did you get into TF2 and what got you to start making animations and making content and posting? Ever since I made a Steam account and saw TF2 was a free-to-play game, that's just where it created a snowball effect where it led to me discovering Source Filmmaker. So, you know what happens next. Whose idea was it to make an animation channel? Well, I mean, mine of course. And why did you decide to make the channel in the first place? Because I wanted to upload my content on YouTube and kind of document my journey as an animator. What main are you? Sniper, Scout and Soldier? If you were offered to make TF2 updates by Valve, would you take it? If it's animation work for towns or new weapons, then hell yeah, I would do it. What got you into animation? Watching animated movies as a child. How did you learn SFM? Kind of learned it myself, and also via tutorials. How long have you been using SFM to animate? Since August of 2014. It's kinda a long time ago, isn't it? Who's your favorite TF2 character to play, and who's your least favorite? Favorite to play is probably Scout and Sniper. My least favorite is probably Pyro. Not because I hate Pyro, because I just suck at Pyro, I really cannot explain why. Have you ever thought of starting something far beyond TF2, Half-Life or other Valve game content? Something that was more realistic, cold, noir, using different models and maps. I do like the idea of trying out something new. As I mentioned earlier, I was working on a Tekken animation, but like something completely original would be very difficult to do. It would be very cool though. However, it would be an insane amount of work, and I'm not exactly skilled enough in other aspects like 3D modeling or map making. I think it's better for me to just stick to TF2. What are your plans for Assault on 2 Fort? Well, I mean, finishing it. What project did you spend the most time and effort on? So the Rodents and Assault on 2 Fort, of course. How are you doing, bruh? I'm doing alright, bruh. If you could do anything else besides SFM, what would it be? I would probably learn how to make music. I mean, I already have done it before, but I never really had a talent for it. Perhaps, if I never discovered SFM, or never learned animation for that matter, I probably would have done something with music. I would have probably taken the time to learn music theory and such and improve my skills at piano. Maybe even learn new instruments. Guitar has always been very interesting to me, but it just always seemed a bit too hard for me to learn, despite what most people say. But yeah, music. I think that's where I would be at. What introduced you to SFM? Team Fortress 2 animations. What are your favorite games other than TF2 and Yakuza? Probably Call of Duty Zombies. And lastly, what are your plans for the future? Graduate and get a job. What are some animation tips that you think tend to fly under the radar? Unironically, it would be using references. You'd be surprised just how many people don't use references when animating something. Like, either it's out of ego or just sheer laziness. I'm actually kind of guilty of this too. So my tip is just use references. Don't be ashamed of using that. And also do not be lazy. What year did you join Steam? I joined in 2014. Which is the first game you have played on Steam? I would say Gabrys Michalek, Team Fortress 2 and Counter-Strike. Where are you from? I am from the Philippines, but I live in Belgium. What do you dream to become or do after a year or two, if you are still alive? How about 5 years? Hopefully by then I graduated and actually get a job in the industry, either freelance or a fixed position in the studio. That would be very nice. What is your favorite game? I would probably say Team Fortress 2. And what advice would you recommend to an animation beginner? Honestly, don't go too overambitious with the project. Learn the basics first. Learn how to walk first before you want to start running. What tutorials do you use to animate? Usually for SFM, I always watch the Valve tutorials. YouTubers that I like to watch are Alan Becker for tutorials on the 12 principles of animation and other beginner exercises, N0ice Mate for 3D in-depth animation tutorials, Tonico Pantoja and Bloop Animation for general advice in animation and information about the industry, Quarter Crew for their breakdowns on animations in their React series. Generally there are a lot of tutorials out there. You cannot really go wrong with either, and eventually you'll find something that will work for you. What was your honest reaction to the last RGG Summit? In case people wonder what RGG stands for, it stands for Ryuga Goto Q. I hope I spelled it correctly. It's the studio behind the amazing Yakuza franchise. So, my reaction? I was pretty damn hyped. Because the fact that Ishin is not only being localized, but being remade, it's freaking crazy. And obviously Yakuza 8, pretty hyped for that as well. And knowing that Lost Judgment and Judgment are both available on Steam now, the world may be going to shit, but at least it's a good time to be a Yakuza fan. Who's your favorite Yakuza character? I would say Majima. Honestly, Majima. Especially from Yakuza 0. Obviously Kiryu and Akiyama are pretty close picks too. And an honorable mention goes to my boy Shinada from Yakuza 5. What is your favorite game rather than Team Fortress 2? Right now I would say it's probably the Yakuza franchise, especially Yakuza 0. You should play it. Best zombies map. You are not allowed to say Kino. Joke's on you. My favorite map isn't QnA. I would say it's still a top 5 for me, but if I have to pick a map, like a favorite map, it's probably either Maul of the Dead from Black Ops 2 or the RUS from Moonlight Lord. However, I only played the Black Ops version of it, but still, I think those two maps are probably the best of all time in my opinion. Sadly, I never played Black Ops 3, so I cannot make any opinion on that. Would you revive me if I have Ray Gun? Before round 50, yes. After round 50, no. This dude is still playing Geometry Dash. Favorite Pokemon? I would probably say my favorite Pokemon is Vaporeon. What games apart from presumably TF2 do you play? Currently I would probably say the Yakuza series, Call of Duty Zombies, sometimes Minecraft and occasionally Geometry Dash. Describe yourself with a TF2 voice line and weapon name.
Oh, I really hate rock bottom.
TF2 or TFC? Sadly, I never played Team Fortress Classic, so I cannot tell, but I would probably prefer TF2 anyway. How do you feel about Flash games? I do miss the old days. Age of War and Happy Wheels were absolutely legendary. Red Team or Blue Team? Which do you prefer? I would probably say the Red Team. In my honest opinion, it's more fun to play defensively than offensively, because defending is just much easier than attacking. Do you spend most of your time doing SFM works, and if not, do you still have time to play TF2? Yeah, I pretty much spend most of my time in SFM. Obviously, if I have downtime, I do play TF2 occasionally. What is your main in TF2? Sniper, Scout and Soldier. Have you ever gone into full rage quit mode? Like you got so angry that you want to destroy an object so badly? Definitely. I am a gamer after all. I have a history of breaking PS3 controls in the past. I used to rage so hard at Battlefield and Call of Duty. I occasionally have my gamer moments here and there, but I try to keep them to myself. I also try not to break anything anymore since equipment is quite expensive. What is your least favorite sound and why? I want to be very clear, I don't hate the voice actor, it's just that her trying so hard to be like Scout is just a little bit cringe for me. If she just tried to be a more original character, like with her own personality, I think that could have worked really well. Just my opinion. Most used SFM model. Why is your character female? Short answer, because why not? Long answer. The female scout is a reference to my old series called Till the Road Ends, where the main character, the femme scout with the tracer hair and glasses, is actually the main character, and who also happens to have a really strong cold tolerance. She has been a mainstay on the channel for a really long time, because I also feature in other videos as well, not just Till the Road Ends. However, I also do use other characters as well. I'm not just stuck with the scout. Like, I have the sniper, the spy, the other spy, etc. I don't think I have a fixed character that represents me, but I suppose the scout or the sniper are probably the closest ones that I have to being an OC. Do you like beans? I mean, they're alright. Why do you choose FemScout to be your mascot?
Choices have consequences.
What are your thoughts on the FemScout model? Why do you like it so much? Honestly, I don't know. I think I just wanted something more unique with my animations, like using a specific character all the time to stand out more. I guess in that sense it kind of worked out pretty well, and I just kind of stuck with it. I'm not really attracted to the character at all, actually. Have you thought about making your own models for videos? Yes, I always wanted to have custom models for Till the Road Ends in particular, as depicted in these concept arts drawn by my friend Trimebrush. Sadly, I suck at modeling, and I don't have the money to afford anyone to make them for me, so for now I'll have to stick to TF2 and the workshop. Why do you like the female scout so much? What do you intend to do with your red character in the video? If you're talking about the red female scout from the QnA announcement video, she's just meant to be a close friend of the blue one. In fact, the character has actually already appeared in other videos before, so for every blue there's a red. Simple as that. She's basically just part of the crew now. Will you make a femme scout OnlyFans? What's your favorite drink?
I love water!
What's your favorite COD Zombies game? Black Ops. Are you planning on making an animation tutorial or guide on SFM? Probably not. What's your favorite Beatles song? Understandable, have a great day. From a scale of 1 to 10, how cool are you?
21.
Will you make a psychedelic, silly SFMs like other creators? Do you like chocolate? Belgian chocolate master race, there is no debate. Biburets or Illipods? Men, what is your favorite kind of chair? Do you know Andy? No, I do not know an Andy. I'm sorry, Satch. What do you think about
Weapon reskins in
TF2?
TF2?
Music? Yes. Can you give me 20% of your income? No. Bagel or donuts? Donuts. What kind of food do you like? I like pineapple on pizza. Yes. Does Bruno Mars is gay? Maybe. Moss creep? Perhaps. Voice actors, you say? Yes. What is the only thing you have always wanted to do and will always work to get it? For me, it's probably making an animated series, like an actual legit animated series, either on YouTube or TV, or whatever streaming service is willing to put up with my bullshit. You like fighter planes? Yes, I played War Thunder and Ace Combat. Mental Gen? Yes, I couldn't agree more. Would you unlock the Gremlin box?
Yes.
Pizza or hamburger? Sandwich.
In Russia, if hand is rotten, you cut off hand. If arm is rotten, you cut off arm. But if heart is rotten, you cut off leg. This is Russian love song. Have something in eye.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer? Every night, I can feel my leg and my arm, even my fingers. The body I've lost.
When it comes to jackets, what type do you prefer?
Well, what color's your Bugatti?
As you can see, Mr. Tate, my Bugatti is red. Hotel California. Is SFM good? Who do you think is more attractive, Fem Scout or Fem Sniper? Heavy. What's the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
What do you mean? An African or European swallow?
As a player, what is your smallest gripe about TF2? Random crits.
Right, but they're using bikes, CJ, and they go cross-country.
Not right now. I gotta check into some shit.
Oh, no!